Black.
All right. So it is time for our program for today. Our speaker is our very own Mike Kalt. Mike, as you may know, was born in Detroit, or in my family, we called it Detroit. And he is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan, holds a PhD in political science from UNC. He retired from SAS Institute after a 31-year career as a technical support manager and instructor. He has been a genealogy student since 1984 and has been actively involved as a volunteer with JewishGen since the mid-90s, working on JewishGen's Yizkor book project and Holocaust database. He maintains the town pages for Stryj and Gorodok, and I won't attempt Gorodok's second name, for JewishGen's KehilaLinks project. In 2001, he traveled to Poland and Ukraine to visit his ancestral shtetls. I have recently had a success with JewishGen after years of failure. I found the 1858 revision list for my ancestral towns in Belarus and actually located my great-grandmother's name on the revision list. She was 2 years old, and it was quite a thrill to see that name. But the only way I was able to get there was corresponding with one of the managers of the Belarus database. So I'll be very interested to hear what Mike has to say, and maybe I'll know how to use JewishGen better after we're done. Thanks so much, Mike Kalt.
Okay, thank you. Wait, am I muted? No?
Nope, we can hear you.
You can hear me, you can see me.
Yep.
Okay, thank you all for coming in this delightful weather. I hate to keep you from going outside, but what are you gonna do? I personally am currently on the field at Michigan Stadium, and I've got to finish this in a hurry because I've got the marching band closing in on me. So let me get this thing started. Where's my share screen? Share screen. Da, 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 da. Okay, and let me zoom on that. Okay, I'm actually a little bit confused as to what you're seeing. Are you seeing a split screen or a single screen?
Split screen, Mike.
Okay.
It's not too annoying, but probably less annoying than the problem I had. We're seeing your, yeah, there you go. Now we're good. Now we're good.
Okay. I thought there. Okay, I'll go with that. Okay, so the title, as Debbie stated the title would be, is What's New and What's Old on JewishGen. And actually what I discovered was there's a lot less new than I thought. So I'm gonna have to stretch this. First, just a show of hands, I guess, video-wise. And I guess I would have to stop sharing to see this. Let's see. Raise your hand if you have used JewishGen at some point in your lifetime. Okay, most of you, but perhaps not all of you. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, I'm very confused, but I installed a new version of Office, and it's behaving very strangely as far as what I can see and what you can see. Okay, but in any event, JewishGen, there are two parts to it. One is what I would call the organization, and that's an actual incorporated entity that whose mission is to provide resources to help facilitate Jewish genealogy. The part that we're going to focus on today is the actual website, which is their portal, if you will, for providing those resources, making them available to all of you. And the URL for that is www.jewishgen.org. I am, okay, you can still see me, I think. All right, there is a whole lot of stuff that you can do. Well, you can Jew on JewishGen as well. Most people go there to find genealogical records, but it's also a way of connecting with other researchers. You can find grave information of where people are buried, pictures of tombstones. You can learn how to do genealogical research. You can research your ancestral town. You can do research about the Holocaust. You can look at family trees. But wait, there's more.
Mike, you're not in, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're not in screen show. You are in
Yeah,
the editing mode.
paused,
Okay.
but I don't know why.
It looks like you can click where it says resume slideshow.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. You can get documents translated. You can read translations of Yizkor books. You can search Ellis Island records. You can find out what your name means in Hebrew, both your first name and your last name. And most importantly, and this is for Debbie, you can actually learn how to make gefilte fish by going to the JewishGen website. Okay, so since we're talking about JewishGen then and JewishGen now, on your left is the way that JewishGen used to look. Back when I did my original presentation, the main site looked like the screen on the left, which has advertisements on it. It also has a lot of text telling you about stuff. So on the right, we have the screen as it looks after an update they made in 2019. And I think you'll see it looks a lot clearer. Number one, they got rid of the ads. And number two, there is
How do I go back? I don't know.
You can put your
content.
phone like this and it self-stands. on
Yeah,
its-
but now I,
Terry,
Go back.
okay, Terry, we can hear you. Anyway, on the right-hand side, you can see that you can go directly from that screen to a lot more different things. So I'll be giving you a tour through the JewishGen page and various pages behind it. And we'll also focus on what has changed and been improved. Okay, here is a list of the updates, the major updates to the website. So they actually launched the new website in July of last year. And one of the things you'll notice is a more consistent look and feel across the pages. The previous website, you click on one page, it will look totally different visually in terms of colors and fonts than the page that preceded it. They've also installed a lot of new servers. So when you do searches on JewishGen, you should get results much more quickly. One of the big changes, and we'll go over this in more detail, is the JewishGen discussion group. And I'll talk about that in more detail later. You may remember something called SIGs, or special interest groups. They have now renamed them research divisions. They haven't really changed, it's just a different terminology. They've also improved what they call the unified search from the main page. This is a single search that searches every document on the JewishGen website. They've added a lot of new genealogy classes to the website, online genealogy classes. And as I mentioned, they got rid of the ads, at least on the main page. Now, they've also made some other enhancements that aren't actually on the website. One of them is that they are now offering webinars, which are on a separate URL that I'll show you. These are done live, but they're also recorded and available on YouTube. They are also doing a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to. It's sent out by email. And they've also, they actually have two different pages on Facebook. One is the JewishGen.org page, and that's mostly to make administrative announcements and talk about what's happening on JewishGen. But the other is a page that they are sponsoring with another group called the Jewish Genealogy Portal. And this is a much more interactive, user-based thing. It's basically a Facebook page where you can go with your questions about Jewish genealogy. It's very similar to the discussion pages, but it's a totally separate thing. Okay, finally, they've added a lot of content. This is some of the more recent stuff that they've added. I'm not going to actually show you much of this. They have just partnered with the University of Southern California Shoah Foundation. They have a big collection of Holocaust testimonies where people either wrote or did video sessions where they discussed their experiences during the Holocaust. There's another collection they added that was donated by Dan Hirschberg that contains hundreds and thousands of records from Krakow. Some of you may be familiar with Miriam Weiner's Roots to Roots collection, which can tell you where various records are stored in various archives in various countries. That had its own web page, but that is now searchable from JewishGen. And for me, one of the big things is the All Galicia database. This is something that is maintained by one of those former special interest groups called Gesher Galicia that contains all kinds of databases, some of which are not housed on JewishGen, but now all of those databases can be searched from JewishGen. So those are the main things I want to cover. So from here on out, I'm basically going to give you a page, a tour of the JewishGen main page and what's behind it. So some of this will be old to you, some of it will be new stuff. So enjoy. Anyway, as I said, this is the new main page. They've taken out a lot of the text. It's much more visual, I think you'll find. So as before, they have four main. Can you see my mouse pointer here?
Yes, but it's very small.
Okay, can you see it here? Okay,
Yeah.
Apparently not, so back here. Okay, so you can see it says About Us, Get Started, Databases, Research, and Donate. Okay, I'm going to spend most of my time going over stuff that's available under these buttons, particularly databases, research, and get started in that order. Okay, what we have down here under search, discover, explore, connect, get involved, and donate are links to some of the most popular pages and collections under those 5 initial pull-down menus. So once you kind of know where you want to go and you're a little bit experienced, you don't have to go and click on databases and then go straight to the town finder. You can click on discover your ancestral town and go straight there. Okay, and then down below, they have some more direct links to some of the more popular pages, including ViewMate and KehilaLinks. And there's the Miriam Weiner Roots to Roots collection. Okay, I honestly don't know what the big distinction is between these big dots up here and the 6 boxes down here, but apparently they think that's an improvement. So who am I to say? All right, so as I mentioned, each of these oval things up here, when you click on it, there's a pull down menu. So if you click on the databases pull down, which is what I want to cover first, these are the items under that menu. Okay, so we have a unified search, which is a search of all of the databases in JewishGen. We have the family finder. I'll be going through all of these in more detail, except I won't cover the family tree of the Jewish people. There's the town finder, the Holocaust database, the online world burial registry, and finally they've added a new link, which is just a list of all of the databases. The 2 asterisks after these 2 items mean they're new items under the pull down. They weren't in the old version of the website. So now we'll look at each of these items under the databases pull down in more detail. Okay, so, well, we won't. What I'll do is I'll show you the different links that are under the research pull down. Okay, so under the research pull down, we have links to the Yizkor books, KehilaLinks, the research division, which is formerly the special interest groups, the ViewMate facility, the discussion group, which has changed quite a bit. That's why I've got the asterisk, and a search of the JewishGen website, which is different than the database search. The database search, which was under databases, searches all of the different databases that JewishGen has. Okay, this search, the JewishGen website search, searches the text on all of the web pages on the JewishGen website. So that's a much smaller number of documents, but it might be useful if you remember something being mentioned somewhere on a web page that you want to be able to find. Okay, finally, the Get Started pull down is where they have their educational and other resources for people who are getting started. And under that, we have the first timer link, the frequently asked questions, the info files, some tools, and a description of their online genealogy courses. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what in more detail the individual links that are under research, databases, and get started. I'm not going to cover about us or donate. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so under the databases, our first link on the pull down is to the JewishGen Unified Search. So this searches 850 different databases they have, different records like Holocaust records, burial records, some census records for Europe and so on. And it lets you search by name, first name, last name, country, and so on. And this is searching more than 2.75 million records from 850 different databases that they have. Okay, and this is a fairly consistent search interface that they now have. So you can search on multiple fields. You can specify whether you're doing a phonetic search or an exact text search or a sound starts with search and so on.
Mike,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but we had a couple of people ask, you know, if JewishGen is free, and there's been some chatting that you can pay $100 and you'll be able to search more efficiently. Can you show people on the screen on your PowerPoint what happens if you have paid that $100 to where it says data type.
Okay, I believe that still happens. Let me.
It does for me.
Okay, let me, bear with me for a second. Figure out what screen I want to share here.
And also, some of you have been asking about the view of Mike's screen. Mike may be able to make his screen a little bit bigger when it goes back to PowerPoint, but what you may want to do is you can actually pull at the margins of your screen where Mike's PowerPoint is, and you can kind of make it bigger by pulling at it. Also, if you click on view at the top right-hand corner on a Windows PC, you can change your view to gallery view and speaker view, and that also may enlarge Mike's screen for you.
Okay, I may also be able to make it larger as
Okay.
well. Now that I think of it. Anyway, what have I done?
Well, you're on JewishGen. We can see that.
I am. Actually, right now, I think I'm back to my slides. So let me go to, no. I really feel ignorant here. It says I'm sharing my JewishGen session, but what I'm seeing is a slide. Okay, and Iris can't get on Zoom. Let me try this again. Okay, now can you see the pull downs on?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm actually sharing the JewishGen screen. So I think you said if we go to databases and unified search.
Right.
Okay, I'm logged in. And as such, or I have paid $100. So because I'm logged in, I can search on surname and given name and so on. And when I search on that, it comes back and it gives me all the records in all of the databases for Isaac Kalt, who is my great uncle, except most of these are not him. But you'll notice that I was able to search on multiple fields there. Okay, if I go back and I log out, okay, now I can still get into JewishGen. So I can still click on databases and click on unified search here. Okay, but notice that under data type, or on the second line here, given name, well, okay.
You can search for
I can do two fields.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once I've selected two fields to search on, you'll notice it says the advanced database search features are available only to contributors of $100. So most of the stuff is free to everybody. There are some things like this, like some of the courses, the online courses are free to people who contribute. So really, it's up to you. I can contribute just because I think it's a good thing, but I also have taken advantage of things like the online courses. Okay, I'm going to try and get back to okay, now you should be seeing my slide here.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not a split screen or anything.
No.
Okay.
Isaac Kalt.
Okay, well, let me
Wrong
put that
slide.
over. Okay, so The second item under the databases menu is the JewishGen Family Finder. And this hasn't really changed much recently. I'm very confused. Okay. This really hasn't changed much. It's something you can use to connect with other people who are maybe researching names that you're researching or researching family towns that you're researching. Okay, so if we click on the Family Finder from the pull down, this page comes up and you can click under search and this will let you search the database. You can click on list and that will let you list the names and towns that you have already entered yourself into the database. Okay, you can also do modify and enter to modify the names that you have entered or enter new names. Okay, so if I click on search, this search window comes up where I can search by name and town. Okay, and the bottom part of the page explains the different types of searches you can do, an exact search, sounds like, contains, and so on. Okay, so if I search for the name Cult, this displays 8 different people who are searching for the name Cult in different towns in Europe. Okay, now some of these, well, one of them is me, the first person here. I'm searching for Cult in both Gorodok or Gorodok and also in Lviv. Okay, Ben Kraut, who is a distant cousin of mine, who I actually found out about through this, is searching for cults in Gorodok or Gorodok, and Doria cult down here is doing that. So as it turns out, these other people who are searching for cults in different towns are not connected to me, but I only know that because they're searching for people in towns that I'm not aware of, or I've contacted them. Okay, once you find somebody there who is searching a town or a person or name that you're interested in, you can click where it says here, and it'll bring up a form where you can send a message to that person saying, hey, I'm searching for the same people, or the same name and town, maybe we should get together. Okay, the next item on the pull down is the JewishGen Town Finder. Again, this is not new, but it's if you want to do research into the town or one of the towns that your ancestors came from. And what this does is it gives you information, kind of statistical and geographical information about the town. Later on, we're going to look at something called KehilaLinks, which is another way of finding out about your town. And it's got a different set of information, but this will tell you where your town is located, different spellings of the town. It'll show you what links there are to genealogical resources in that town, and also a list of other people who are also researching that town. So if you click on the pull down for the town finder, you get this form, and you can search for the Jewish community or the town that you're looking for. Now, one of the problems or issues that you probably run into is, depending on when it was and where it was, the spelling of the town may vary drastically. For example, I'm going to be looking for a town called Stryj, which was spelled S-T-R-Y-J when it was in Austria-Hungary, then S-T-R-Y-I for a while, and S-T-R-Y-Y currently, and so on. So one of the nice things about this is you can enter any of the possible spellings, and as long as it's one of the variations they recognize, it will be found. Now, you can also, if you know that it was spelled Stryj back in Austria-Hungary, you can enter Stryj and search by pre-World War II country. And that will eliminate some of the other spellings. So by narrowing down the search as to when you want the name to refer to, what period you want it to refer to, you can narrow down your search. Because if you search for a town, you know, there's some towns that have, there are 12 different versions of the same name, but they're different towns. Okay, so if I do go and search for Stryj, it finds these 4 phonetic variations on it. And the thing that's nice is it will show you what the name was at various points in time. So after World War II, it's spelled Stryy. Between the wars and before, it was Stryj. Okay, and then here are other variations on the spelling. Okay, now if I click on this thing here, it brings up a page with a lot more information on my town. Okay, including a list of the Yizkor books, a list of all of the people who are doing research on people or on the town of Stryj. It also has a link to the KehilaLinks page that we'll discuss later. It's also got a map of the area so you can see what towns were around it. And then it's got a list of the nearby Jewish communities. Now, as it turns out, my grandmother was actually from this Liziachi town that was 7 miles northeast of it. And you can zoom in on this map, and if you zoom in far enough, it will actually show Liziachi on that map. Okay, and if you click down here on JewishGen resource map, it will actually show you databases that are available for the different towns around Stryj. So this is just a very useful page, especially if it's the first time you've done any research on an ancestral town. Next pull down from the databases is the Holocaust database. And this is a set of, each database under there is a list of names for Holocaust survivors and Holocaust victims that they got from different places. It might be a list of prisoners at a particular concentration camp. It might be a list of survivors from a town. It might be a list of people from a town that they had tax records for, and so on. And there's about 300 of these different databases. Okay, so if I click on that link, it takes me to this search page where you can search for names that are on those lists. It's our typical search page. Now, at the bottom of this, under the search box, it actually lists the individual databases. Again, there are about 300 of them down here. The first one, for example, the Aufbau database contains 33,000 Holocaust survivors published in a German Jewish language paper in New York. Okay, so if I do a search on, well, if I click on the name of the database, it actually gives me more detail on that database. What the contents are, what the fields are in the database, how it was collected, and so on. If I do a search, for example, I'm looking for a cousin of mine, Pearl Sperber. I see that her name is in 3 of those different databases. Okay, if I click on the right side here, list 1 record, for example, it actually gives me a summary of the record from that database. So it gives her birth date, when she was liberated from the concentration camp and where she was born. Okay, by the way, if I had gone back and I clicked here on the left side, it would have taken me to the page about that particular collection. Okay, and by the way, something that is new on all of the different search pages under JewishGen, they now have save this as a favorite search. So if there's a particular search you want to run over and over again over a period of time to see if there's anything new with it, you can save it as a favorite and not have to go through all the menus. Okay, next database is the Jewish Worldwide Burial Registry. Okay, this is a searchable database of graves that are is limited to Jewish cemeteries worldwide. So it's not nearly as big, for example, as Find a Grave, but it does contain 3.7 million names. So they're updating this fairly frequently because it's almost twice as many as they had 2 years ago. Covers about 8,000 and some cemeteries. Okay, there's your search page. Here I'm looking for the graves of people named Mickelson, and I can specify a geographical region. In this case, I specified West Virginia because I happen to have some cousins named Mickelson who are in Bluefield, West Virginia. So when I do the search, I get several Mickelsons who are in the Monte Vista Cemetery in Bluefield, West Virginia. And if I click on the burial record, it will show me as much information about that person and their grave as was entered into the record. Okay, the final thing on the pull down, the database pull down, is a complete list of databases. And this is just the first part of the page. This actually, I think there are 800 and some different databases they have. So if I were to scroll down, I'd see 800 different databases. So you can, this is a good thing to look at on a rainy day just to kind of see what different databases are out there. And they've broken it down into categories like general, which are listed here, then Eastern Europe, and then broken down by country or area, Ukraine, United States, and so on. Okay, and if you click up here, it'll go directly down to Germany and you'll see all of the German databases. Okay, so that covers what's under the databases pull down. Now we're going to go to the research pull down, and is you can see the list of items here. I already listed them. Now we'll go over them in more detail. All of these are things that were there previously, except the website search was not available from the pull down previously. Okay, so the first pull down item is the Yizkor book collection. Okay, as you probably should know, Yizkor books are memorial books written for communities destroyed in the Holocaust. Now, typically what happened for most towns, the survivors of the town got together amazingly, across the world, amazingly enough, before the internet, got together and published books, memorial books for the communities. And a typical Yizkor book might have several chapters, each written by a different person. It might contain a list of the people from that town who the survivors know perished in the Holocaust. In addition, there might be individual people in the towns who wrote their own individual books, and those are also included in this collection. So within the collection, you have, you can actually see online translations of the books, not all of them, but a lot of them, a directory of where you can find Yizkor books in public libraries and bookstores, A necrology index, that is a collection of all of the names from the memorial lists inside the Yizkor books. And finally, a name index, which are people whose names are in the text sections, but not the memorial lists of the Yizkor books. Okay, so this is the main page of the Yizkor book translations. Okay, and if you want to look at the translation of a particular Yizkor book, you can scroll down, and above this, I don't have a picture of it, but you can actually click on the first letter of the town name and go to that letter, so you don't have to scroll through the whole thing. And then you can click on the book that you're interested in. Okay, so all of these books have been translated into English from Hebrew or Russian or whatever the original language was. So this is the Stryj Yizkor book, and each chapter is a separate web page that's been translated. So I can click on any of these chapters and go directly to an English translation of that page. So one of the chapters that may be lower in this list was Memories from an Old Home. And then here is the English translation. Okay, another component of the Yizkor book database is where you could find the Yizkor books, what libraries they're in. So if I search on Stryj, it tells me, let's see, it brings up this page. It gives me more information about the book. It even links to the translation. And then these are the libraries where I could, in theory, borrow it from. And this just goes, this is about half of them. Okay. This is a search of the necrology database, the memorial list. So if I search for Sperber, it says that the name Sperber shows up in the memorial lists in all of these different Yizkor books. And then I click on the right side to see the particular names that show up. Okay, next link under research is KehilaLinks. Okay, this is where you go for even more research about ancestral towns. Okay, so what's the difference between the KehilaLink and the Town Finder? Okay, the Town Finder is maintained by JewishGen, and it contains a specific set of information about each town, like the different names that it contained over the years, where it was located over the years, specific maps, and specific resources about the town. The KehilaLinks are pages about towns that are maintained by individual volunteers. So I maintain a couple of KehilaLinks for a couple towns. So it contains whatever the volunteer who maintains it wants to put on it. So typically it will contain histories of the town, pictures from the town, links to other information. And we used to call these shtetl links, but I guess nobody knew how to pronounce shtetl link. So they decided to call it KehilaLinks. So this is the main page. Now, oddly enough, I don't see a way to search for the town, but if I click on Ukraine, for example, it'll give me an alphabetic list of the towns with KehilaLinks in Ukraine. Okay, and so if I do that, and I go look under Gorodok, which is also known as Gorodok Yagielansky, or Grading, or 5 other different names. Okay, and this is the main page, and I have a picture of the town from the 1800s. I also have links down the left-hand side, links to photos, a map that was drawn by somebody in the center of town. And if I were to scroll down on this page, these are other links that I put there to every piece of information I know that's on the web about Gorodok. Okay, the next link on the research page is called Research Divisions. Now, these used to be called SIGs, or Special Interest Groups. What they did is they decided to rename them to Research Divisions. They took the exact same page that said SIGs and just put the words Research Divisions at the top. But it's you can see that a research division can refer to a geographical area or a topic like Sephardic genealogy, or country, or a geographic area like Subcarpathia. Okay, so if I click on the Łódź area database, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You are.
Okay, and this is the main page of the Łódź Area Research Group. And I hope you're impressed, Debbie, that I got the funny letters in there.
I am suitably impressed, Mike, as I always am by you, and surprised.
Okay, and these pages are maintained by kind of an independent group that is designated to doing additional research on that area. Okay, something that's no longer in that pull-down list for some reason, but I wanted to make you aware of. There are some groups that are called hosted organizations. And these are groups that are technically independent of JewishGen, but their pages are hosted on the JewishGen server, and JewishGen lets you get to them from their website. And like I said, there's no pull down to get to this page, but it is under jewishgen.org/jewishgen.hosted.htm. And some of these sites are really important. JRI Poland that I've talked about in the past, Jewish Record Indexing. This is the best site for getting records that are from what was Poland in the past and is Poland now. The Litvak Special Interest Group, which is also for some reason one of the research divisions, is listed here. The Ellis Island Foundation database. The neat thing about this, if you've ever used Steve Morse's website to do a search for records on Ellis Island, basically you can go to this site and have an interface to that search. Okay, and then there are also links to the websites for different Jewish genealogical societies. I never looked to see, I don't think we're on there because we're not hosted on the JewishGen server. Okay, the next item under research is ViewMate. This is a wonderful tool. If you have a document that you need translated, or you need interpreted, or you've got a picture of a bunch of people from the old country and you need somebody to look at it and say, oh, I know where this was taken, or these people are in the picture, this is what ViewMate is for. This is the main ViewMate page, and what you do to use ViewMate is you create a JPEG or other image file containing the document or picture that you want other people to look at. You then submit your image file to ViewMate by clicking on one of these links here, upload your image. Okay, then the ViewMate staff puts that image online in a certain location, And then you go to one of the JewishGen discussion groups that we're going to talk about in a few minutes and tell them, hey, I just posted a document on ViewMate containing records from this town. Can you tell me what this field means? And then people who participate in that discussion group can go look at your image and answer you in the discussion group. Okay, so here's an example where I had posted a, this is a document from Hungary, and it's the birth record for my great uncle, I believe. Okay, and I wanted to get some of the fields interpreted. And the reason that big black thing in the middle is that there are two people I want information on, and they're at the top and the bottom of this page, and I don't care about the people in the middle, so I just blacked it out. But basically, I turned it into a JPEG, uploaded it to the ViewMate site, and then put a message out on one of the message boards saying what my question was. Okay, and then I got this response from somebody who went through all the fields and told me what was there. So this is really neat resource for getting that kind of information from a document or a picture. Okay, I mentioned discussion groups. I should correct myself. I now mean discussion group. This is one of the biggest changes, most important changes to JewishGen. Now, if you've used JewishGen in the past, they had a page that looks like this one on the left that I think said discussion group from the Pulldown, but here it says mailing lists. Okay, the way they did their discussion groups, and the discussion group is just a way for people interested in a topic to communicate with each other, is that they had several different discussion groups, a lot of them that were corresponded to those special interest groups. So there was I assume there was a Łódź discussion group, there was a Galicia discussion group, and so on. Okay. And this used a technology called a listserv, which is something they used back in the 1980s and was horribly outdated. And it was a real pain in the ass to make a posting and see what had been posted and reply to the post. Okay, and you'll notice that there are all these different groups. So you post to whichever group you thought the topic was relevant to, or there was a general JewishGen discussion group that you'd post to for something that wasn't specific to any of those topics. Okay, they've completely torn that apart and rebuilt it using a different interface. And now the interface looks like this on the right. Okay, and you'll notice that it says jewishgen.org discussion group. That's because there's only one group now. Okay, well, so how do I narrow down my search or the people I want to get in touch with? Well, we'll see how that works in a second. First, a little bit more about discussion groups. Why would you use them when you've got all these other resources? Well, all of the other resources kind of go to static web pages that have specific information that was put there and it will always be there unless somebody specifically changes it or moves it. And web pages, the other web pages available from JewishGen, they deal in facts, not opinions. So if you want to know where somebody was born, you can certainly look that up. But you may want to get somebody's opinion. Excuse my phone for ringing there. For example, you might want to ask hundreds, if not thousands of people, which genealogy software should I use? Can you recommend a researcher to help me? How can I tell if my Uncle Izzy is really my uncle? So sometimes you just need to talk to someone rather than look something up. And that's what these pages are useful for. Sorry, I was just wheeling around the room here. Okay, so that's what the discussion groups are for. So what's new about these discussion groups? How did things change? Okay, as I said, we now have a single group called the JewishGen discussion group. So we don't have those individual groups, but now we use hashtags to specify one or more groups of people or areas that might have interest in what you're posting. And this is actually improvement because you might have had something in the past that was relevant to more than one group, and there was no way to get that question or information out to more than one groups except by posting it multiple times. Okay, anybody can view the messages in the JewishGen discussion group. Okay, but if you want to post a question, you actually have to register or subscribe. Also, as we're going to see, there's a couple of different ways you can see what's in a group. You can either get the messages mailed to you, or you can look at them on a web page. If you want messages mailed to you, you also have to subscribe, not describe. Okay, and finally, all of the posts are moderated. That is, if you post something, it doesn't automatically appear on the web page. This is to prevent people from posting political stuff or spam or other things that really don't belong there. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's two different ways that you can look at what's been posted on these groups or post them yourselves. Okay, one is to use email. Okay, you really don't want to post by email, but you may want to get emails showing what's been posted in the last 24 hours or the last 12 posts. This is really useful if you post a question like, I don't know, can you recommend a researcher? And you're expecting responses. With the email interface, the responses will be mailed directly to you. And you can choose whether you get them all at once in a single email, or you get them in individual emails, or so on. So this is useful when you want to see responses to something you posted. Okay, the other interface is to look at them on a web page, and that web page is groups.jewishgen.org, or you get to that web page by pulling down on research and discussion groups. Okay, this is useful when you want to look up something that may have been posted in the past. For example, before you ask about researchers, you really want to go and find out if anybody has asked about researchers before and see those responses. Well, if you're just using the mail interface, you're only going to get responses that have been posted since you started receiving the mail. You won't get a response that was posted 3 years ago. Okay, and if you want to actually make a post, doing it through the web page is the best way to do it. Okay, so how do you subscribe? Okay, on that main groups page, groups.jewishgen.org, you scroll down and there's a link here, apply for membership in this group. And when you click on that, all it does is ask you for your email address. Now this is distinct from belonging to JewishGen. And they haven't really explained why they have two separate things. I think it's because this whole discussion group interface is on a different server and is totally separate from the JewishGen web pages themselves. So it's got different validation and so on. So you have to register for this separately than registering for JewishGen itself. But you won't get spammed or anything else like that. Okay, so once you've subscribed and you go to this page, you can click on subscription and specify whether you want messages emailed to you, and if so, how you want them emailed. So your options here are every message posted in the discussion group is mailed to you individually. I don't think you want that. Okay, the full featured digest says every 12 messages are bunched and mailed to you as a single email. The third is daily summary. That is, every message received that day is emailed to you. Okay, and you can also say, I don't want any emails, or I only want special notices. I have it set for special notices. Your mileage may vary. Okay, if I have it set to full feature digest, this is the email I will get. This is actually an email message. And so it's got a list of topics, and then down below are the actual messages under those topics. Okay, you'll notice, by the way, that next to each of these topics is a list of the hashtags that were entered when the topics were posted. And I don't know why the archives hashtag is blue and all the others are black. Okay, now, there actually are, I think, a couple hundred messages posted to the message board daily. So, like I said, you probably don't want, if you're getting the mail to you, you don't want to see them all. Okay, and the way to specify which messages you see in your mail are you can click on hashtags over here on the left side of the page, and it will show all the different hashtags. Okay, and then if you click on mute/notify, it'll take you to a page where you can say, I don't want to receive emails that have this hashtag. Okay, unfortunately, I don't see an easy way to say I only want to see emails that have this hashtag. So if I only wanted to see Galicia, I would, unless I figure out other way, I would have to go through all of these and mute them except for Galicia. There may be a better way. I haven't figured it out yet. Okay. If you just want to use the web interface and want to see all of the posts on a web page, just click on messages on the groups.jewishgen.org page. And these are the most recent posts. You can scroll down. There are 585,210 messages. Okay, and you'll notice again that all of them have hashtags on them. I think you may have to have a hashtag. And then I think these numbers are the number of replies. Okay, now I may only want to see JewishGen messages. What I can do is click on hashtags up here, and it'll show me a list of all the possible hashtags. And if I select Galicia from that pull down, now I'm only seeing the messages that have Galicia as hashtags. Okay, so this is a real good interface for seeing stuff that has been posted in the past, even up to yesterday. Okay, how do I start a new topic? I click on new topic down here. Now, I have to be registered before I can do that. Then I just add a subject, oops, click down here on this pull down and add one or more hashtags and then enter my stuff. And I can use text and so on. Now, what you can also do now is you can also add photos and files. And it looks like in the future, by using the photos and files in combination with the new topics, you basically have the same functionality you had from ViewMe, because you can now upload stuff that people can link to and look at and then reply to your questions. I think that nobody knows about that yet, so there aren't very many photos or files that have been posted. Okay, so that covers the research pull downs. Now let's look at the pull downs under getting started. Okay, the first one is called first timer, and that's basically if you are using JewishGen for the first time. It's basically an introduction to how to get started in Jewish genealogy. So it's actually got a list of steps here, how to interview family members, then a link to the courses, then register for the JewishGen Family Finder, and then finally join the JewishGen discussion groups. And there's I think a couple more steps down there. Okay, the second pull down is the JewishGen FAQs, or frequently asked questions. So when you click on that, you go to this page, which is a table of contents for the FAQs. Okay, these are some of the topics that are covered under the FAQs. This is one of the FAQs, how to get US vital records. To tell you the truth, this hasn't been updated lately. This is the page as it looks today, and it has a date of January 20th, 2015 on it. So caveat emptor. Okay, the next link under Get Started is something called info files. And this is kind of the junk drawer of JewishGen. It's where they put all of the files that they couldn't fit anywhere else. And it's just a bunch of resources broken down by topic. Sometimes it's broken down by country. It's like a very detailed FAQ. They're actually going to be replacing this with something called the JewishGen knowledge base, and they're going to keep it up. Okay, but here's what it looks like now. So you can scroll down and see the individual countries and topics, and here it's broken down. You can click on a topic or click on a country, and then you can see a list of specific files that are under there. It's pretty disorganized. So one of the info files is called Reading Hebrew Tombstones, and it's a fairly detailed discussion of what the different parts of a tombstone are and what different words mean. So there's a lot of useful stuff there. Getting to it is a little difficult. Okay, there's another link called Tools. And these, I don't know that they're that much different than files. They're links to sites that do some specific things, like a Soundex calculator that will take a name and give you what the Soundex code the name is. Jewish calendar converter, Jewish calendar, distance and direction, and so on. So if I click on, well, I don't have an example here, but if I click on Soundex, it'll take me to a page where I enter a name and it returns the Soundex code. Okay, the final link under Getting Started is online genealogy classes. And this has also been modified and improved quite a bit since you may have last seen it. So this is only part of the page. There are different types of classes. There are text-based classes. where you go through a workbook, basically. There are home study courses. There are personal mentoring courses where there will be a JewishGen staff member who will teach 3 or 4 of you in live time. And then there's links to other sources that are available, including webinars and specific tutorials. Okay, this is one of the areas where it may depend on whether you have made a contribution or not to JewishGen as to which of these are free and which of these might cost you money. Okay, these are some of the other enhancements to JewishGen that are not within those pull downs, but are various other places on the website. So this includes the webinar series, the newsletter, and the portal on Facebook. So the webinar series, this is brand new. And these are live webinars. I believe these are all free. And they're done by experts in Jewish genealogy. And they're initially done live. So they're done at a specific place, well, not place, but time through Zoom. And then they're recorded and made available on YouTube. So you can click to register for upcoming sessions. And my guess is if you click to register here, it would tell you that it's been recorded on YouTube. But this is another nice resource to know about. This is the JewishGen email newsletter. This is sent out, I think, on a monthly basis, and it's just a newsletter. These are the different topics in the newsletter. I've just got the first page of the newsletter, so it actually goes on for pages and pages. So this is what's new, and you subscribe to it by going to the bottom of the main JewishGen page. And at the bottom is sign up for our newsletter, just enter your email address. Okay. Finally, we have the Jewish Genealogical or Genealogy portal on Facebook. Now, there are 2 different Facebook pages that JewishGen is involved in. One is the actual JewishGen.org Facebook page. That is maintained by JewishGen, and it's where they make their announcements. And I think every week they also publish a page from one of the Yizkor books. But it's not really a place for people to ask questions and exchange information. It's mostly JewishGen is doing the talking, not the individual members. The Jewish Genealogy portal is sponsored by JewishGen, but actually run by a separate group called the Jewish Genealogy portal. And this is basically a discussion group on Facebook. This is pretty much the same functionality as the discussion group, but if you're more comfortable using Facebook, it's a good way for you to post a question out there and have potentially thousands of people report on it or get back to you on it. Okay, so you go to facebook.com, and in the Facebook search, you search for Jewish Genealogical. I don't know why I want to put ickle on the end of that, but Jewish Genealogy portal, and click on that link and it'll take you to this page. Apparently I'm finished. So that is my conclusion. Let me go back. Let me change my share and share. That, which is the main JewishGen page. By the way, One of the other things they did in the rewrite of the page they did is I believe they modified it so that it's more phone friendly. Because one of the things you'll see is when you go to a lot of these links, it doesn't take up the whole screen. And I think this was done to make it more easily viewable on a phone. Okay, so that's all I have to say. So do we have any questions out there?
Mike, can you take a look at the chat? There were some comments, and you might want to, I think you explained a lot of them. For example,
only 26.
Only 26 comments?
Yeah.
I had to block the more profane ones. They were about, you know, one of the other Big Ten schools. You wouldn't have wanted to, it would have just upset you anyway.
Okay, it's out there.
Okay,
so the first question is from Rob, wanting to know whether he still has to eat gefilte fish. That's a matter between you and your wife. Okay, then there was a question about the contributions to JewishGen. Okay, I think you covered that. I made it larger. Thank you, yes. Click on the review button. Can records from JewishGen be imported into Ancestry.com? Regrettably, no, but a lot of the records are also on Ancestry.com. So I maintain my tree on Ancestry. And what I wind up doing, I will find something on JewishGen, and I want to basically import it into Ancestry just by, you know, using point and click on Ancestry, and not maybe, basically automatically importing it into Ancestry. And the only way I can do that is if I get it from an Ancestry database. Now, a lot of the databases that JewishGen has are also available on Ancestry. So in most cases, I will just go back to Ancestry and find that record in that database on Ancestry and just click on it there and import it automatically. If it's not available via Ancestry, basically what I find myself having to do is looking at it on JewishGen and then using a snipping tool and snipping an image of the record and then saving that on Ancestry, which I don't think is the optimal way of doing things. But right now, if the record is not in one of the databases accessible by Ancestry, you can't get it directly there. Okay, difference between searching phonetically and sounds like. I think one of them, I think the sounds like, is that the Dach Mokotov, or is that a separate thing? Let's.
I sent a link to JewishGen, which does an adequate job of explaining the difference. Maybe the way to think about it is take a name like Kramer and think about all the different ways it can be spelled and how it can sound. So Kramer, my brother-in-law's last name is Kramer, and in the old country, it was spelled with an umlaut, you know, one of those little double dots on top of an A, but you can't use the double dot on JewishGen. And so phonetically, it would sound more like Krumer or Creamer or Kremer.
Well, usually when you do a sounds like, or phonetically, it kind of throws away the vowels and picks up the consonants and does it that way. I know that Soundex is an actual noun possibly proper noun that was used by non-Jewish sources, census researchers, and so on, where you take the consonants and convert it to a numeric code, and then the soundex code will be the first letter of the name, followed by numbers representing the sounds. Like Kramer would be K174 or something like that. You will see a reference in some places to Dach Mokotov soundex, and that is Jewish specific. So it takes into account things like and realizes that K and H can be the same thing, can make the same sound, whereas an English soundex wouldn't treat K and H as being the same. But the answer to the specific question is, I'm not sure what phonetically it sounds like, how they differ. Okay, pre-JewishGen, 2 search entries. Okay. Yes, you can save your JewishGen output as a PDF and upload that as a document to Ancestry. That's what I was saying. That's what I do when the source is not accessible directly by Ancestry. Okay. Oh, and you did. So should I click on that link? Oh, there's. Okay, so SoundLikes is soundex. And do they say what phonetically is? Okay, you're right. They don't answer their own question. Okay, I paid the $100. How do I get to an advanced search? So if I go to, was that unified search? Okay, where was the advanced search? Where did that show up, or was that? Okay. All right, so here I have not logged into JewishGen yet. Okay, so I can't get to the advanced search. I went to databases, unified search, and this is what I get. So now I'm going to log into JewishGen. And now that I've logged in, I get 4 search fields plus all countries. So once you paid the $100, I would assume that when you pay the $100, they will, if you don't already have a login, you should have one, and then they will note that on your login. So I believe that I could have a login, but not have paid the $100, and I still wouldn't get the advanced search here.
You might have to call them. I had to call them once because I paid and then nothing happened.
Where are the Boolean operators of like not?
They don't seem to be there, at least not there. Let me go to a family finder. So I don't know, you know, you might want to, what I would do at this point is I would Google JewishGen search in Boolean. Value added services. Okay, so this is a list of what you get for the $100. Okay, now this is in the all country
It
database
says Boolean and or searches.
here.
Sorry.
So let me look. There's Poland. Oh, there's Poland. Okay, so if I do this, town, any field.
Oh,
There's an and and an or, but
yeah.
there's no, there's
there's no
basically, but not. That's there. Now, if I go to the unified search, okay, there's no and or here, even if I'm logged in.
Hmm.
So that's kind of weird. Okay, Martin's answering all my questions. Okay, so that's a good argument for going and doing an individual search within an individual database, I guess. So, yeah, you do have to search each separately.
Mike, you have, Ava wants to ask 2 questions. Can we,
Okay,
I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute.
Okay, well, the first one is sort of directly related to this because a couple of weeks ago, I did a search with a surname and a town and came up with a list and got all excited because I, had these people with this surname in this town. And so sent them all emails. And a couple of them responded to me, and it turns out I just kind of happened to find out from one of them and then emailed a couple of the others and asked. They were with that surname, but they had nothing to do with that town. And so I was wondering if their search features are working or if anybody else has experienced anything like that. And I definitely had both the surname and the town up there.
okay, so was this the family finder?
No, I think I was, yeah, it must have been. I think so. I never did go back to try to do it over again, but I definitely know they were, it was both under name and town.
Okay, well, the way, so you're saying, well, let me just go search my name again. Okay, you were looking at a list like this, and then
No, it wasn't like this exactly. No.
Ava, is it possible that you wound up with a search that was one or the other? So you got a list of names that matched, and you got a list of.
That's why I had never gone down and, hit anything to make it or instead of and. That's why I thought it said and on the top. And I just thought maybe they were having a blip in their search program or something. I don't know.
okay. Another place where you can get to that is if you go through the town finder, and then I clicked on number of JGFF entries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are all the people.
Yeah, I think I was doing something like this. And
but again, this is basically going through the family finder. And you'll note that a lot of those are really old. I know that unfortunately some of these people are dead. Or there may be people who entered something in 1998 and forgot about it. So unless.
I mean, it's hard for you to answer this. I was just wondering if other people have experienced something like that. because I was pretty surprised. I'm pretty sure I had it set up for both the name and the town, and I was getting the name, yeah, but they had nothing to do with that town. So I don't know. The other question I had is if you go back into the subscription for the discussion group,
Mhm.
do you know what the signature thing at the bottom is all about?
That is where you can enter either text or a picture or something that's appended to the bottom of everything you post.
Okay, so I could put my name in there and then I don't have to worry about posting my name with every post.
Right, and a lot of people, what they'll do is you'll see them add researching and then a bunch of names in caps.
Mhm.
And what's neat about that is that if somebody goes to the website, let me go into discussion groups. Okay, and I do a search on messages. Search there, and I'm going to search for my name. Glad my name's not Cohen. Okay, so in a lot of cases, it's posts that I made. In some cases, it's a post about me. There are actually 423 posts where my name comes up, my last name comes up, and in some of them, I believe if I went far enough, I'd find one where the post is by somebody named Cohen, but in their signature it said, "I'm researching Schwartz, Kalt, Long, and so on," and that's where it found the Kalt. So that's why people tend to do that.
Okay.
Okay, Andrea asks, contacted a researcher on the Family Finder page. How will we know if he or she responds? Okay, so if you click on contact here, they will, and you enter a message, notice that it's already hard-coded that I'm sending it to researcher number 1006, who unfortunately is dead. So this probably isn't a person I want to contact, but if I were to send it to Debbie, I would enter my text here and I would send it. But where I wind up sending it is to something on JewishGen that basically puts it into an email that they send to her. Okay, so the person that gets sent this doesn't know what my email address is, and I don't know what his or her email address is. So the only way that you'll know whether they got it is if they respond to you, and what they'll get is a page like this, where they respond blindly back to you. Now, usually what I will do is after the first message, I'll say, hey, instead of conversing this way, here's my email address.
I guess my question was a little different. How will I know if he responds back? Where do I look on JewishGen to
You don't
find
look
out
on
if he
JewishGen.
responds?
You will only know if you get an email from JewishGen with his response. And the title will be something like response from JGFF user 1746.
And so the response from JewishGen will come to my email?
It'll come to your email. Okay. Let me give you an example here.
No, I got it. I just didn't know it came to our email.
Okay, so if I want to send, gosh, you'd think this would be in alphabetical order. Come on. Bear with me. Family Finder, search. Okay, so I'm going to search on Calt. Okay, and I'm going to contact this Mike Calt guy. So I click here.
Mike, we can't, you have to screen share. Mhm.
Well, let me do that. Okay, so okay, and then so the title will be the JewishGen Family Finder. Here's my message. I send it. Okay, it goes through JewishGen, and if I go into my mail, which I need to go there. I thought I was.
There it is, Mike. We can see it.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, there's the email I got. Hi there. Okay. Now, apparently at this point, I don't know whether it's because I sent it to myself. It contains the email of the sender. So I guess at that point you could email the person back. But this is the message you would see if they had responded to you. Let me get back. Okay, so where am I? Let's do that. I've lost my chat. Still don't know where my chat is. Are there any other, Debbie, are there any other questions?
I am looking. I don't see any specific questions. Mike, if I can, I would like to stop your sharing for just a second. Is that okay?
Apparently so.
Apparently so. You know I'm bossy. First of all, Mike, thank you very much for explaining a couple of things for me about JewishGen that I didn't know. One of the things I've discovered about JewishGen is how robust it is. And I've been on JewishGen for since 2008. And every time I go on there, there is something new. It's not usually a structural change like what Mike has been explaining to us. There are just so many more databases. And I wanted to share with everybody one of the new things that I discovered just kind of accidentally getting prepared for this meeting. I read an announcement on one of those group emails that the Shoah Foundation and JewishGen had formed a partnership. Mike had put us on alert to that. So I thought I would just test it out and see what was there. So I went, and this is also a question from Debbie Moose. She said, well, where do you start? What I would suggest, and Mike, I'm sure has an opinion about this too, is you go to the unified search. So you start at databases, go to unified search, and, it's kind of like shooting buckshot. You just kind of see what's out there. And I just went ahead and typed in my mother's maiden name, and I put in is exactly in the search, because if I don't, I'm going to get Hallis and Gaylash and all kinds of different names. So just typed it in and hit enter. And down at the very bottom is the new database, the Shoah Foundation Survivor Interviews. Now I know that my mother's in this database. I know she did a testimony, but here it is now indexed. So I click on list 12 records and I was amazed to find there's my mother's testimony right at the top. Felicia Brenner was her married name, with a link to her testimony. So I can go right to the Shoah Foundation and watch her video. So I'll just go ahead and do that for you. You can kind of see if I were to play it, my
First time to be
mom's
interviewed?
video would come up. But also if I click on full record, what the Shoah Foundation did was completely digitize the transcription of my mother's interview. And every name that she mentions in this interview is now showing up on JewishGen. So if I didn't know my mother had brothers and sisters, if I didn't know what her father's name, if I didn't know her Holocaust history already, I would be able to find it by looking at this record. And then I could even directly link to the part of the testimony where she mentions Auschwitz or her grandfather's town. I mean, it blew me away. If I didn't know all this information already, I would have found myself with a year's worth of work from looking just at this one record on JewishGen. It is absolutely remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
And is that indexing generally done by volunteers?
Yes. Now, the Shoah Foundation is funded by Steven Spielberg, and he gave the money to have the Shoah survivors to have people trained to interview the survivors. It was all done on VHS tape at the time. And then the next job was to have volunteers transcribe basically the entire interview. But how they managed to do this interface with JewishGen so we can see those names. Barbara, I don't know how that was done. And I have some mixed feelings about it because all of the survivors were told that their testimony was going to remain private forever, only available to family members and researchers. And clearly that promise has not been kept. On the other hand, as a genealogical researcher, that database is just a treasure trove. And that's just one of the new things that Mike mentioned that's new. So there's just an incredible amount more that's out there. You have to keep going back to that website time after time.
Mike, what do you think JewishGen is most valuable for?
I think especially if you don't know where your ancestors came from, or you have multiple ancestors from a lot of different places. So for example, all of my ancestors came from Galicia. So JRI Poland and Gesher Galicia are, places where I'm most likely to find a record, get a hit, or something like that. But if I didn't know where they were from, or I had people from Lithuania and Spain and other places in my background, and I didn't want to have to go visit each individual locality site, as it were, although many of them are hosted by JewishGen. That's what I think JewishGen is probably going to give you the biggest bang for the buck.
The buck is very small compared to some other services.
And their educational resources are also very good. The webinars, the courses, and so on.
Have you heard anything about records from Romania? There aren't very many.
I haven't. One thing that's useful if you're a Facebook person, and I know you are, is that their Facebook page, they will announce when they've got new collections on the Facebook page and also presumably in that newsletter. But other than that, I don't know specifically what the situation is with new records on Romania.
It looks like, Barbara, that on JewishGen, Romania and Moldova are combined, and there are 1.2 million records. But I mean, relative to some other communities of researchers, you're right, there just isn't nearly as much. Probably somebody needs to take the lead on that, like Stanley Diamond did in Poland and Vivian Katz did for Hungary. You know, just somebody with a lot of time on their hands and a generous spirit.
And one of the problems in my situation is that my great-grandparents' passport says Bucharest. They're not Moldovan. Moldavia has more records than main Romania, I guess you would say. And so I just have not been able to find anything.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mike about JewishGen before we kind of open up here for, I know Debbie Moose may still have a question. She was the one that was struggling with, you know, where do I get a good gefilte fish recipe? And Debbie writes cookbooks, in case you were wondering why she's dealing with gefilte fish issues. But some of you may have a broader question for Mike about using JewishGen.
So you think these latest revisions, one of my problems with JewishGen was that I always felt like every section was different, that you needed to click on different things to get to, anyway, do you think it's made it more uniform in the search approach?
I think
Yes, we are.
over time it will. I think it's a work in process, and like those info files, they're converting to a single database. So to tell you the truth, as I said at the beginning, there were not as many changes as I thought there were based on what I'd been hearing at IJGS and so on. But a lot of the stuff is under the hood, and I know they just hired last year a database guy to handle all of their databases, and I think as they get stuff cleaned up, it's that problem is gonna be addressed and lessened.
With any luck, we might get Abraham Grohl, who's the young man who is the executive officer of JewishGen, as one of our speakers early in the year. I'm working on it, going as fast as I can. Somebody, I don't know if it's somebody in my I don't think it's in my background. Barbara, do you have somebody speaking in your background, or Mike?
I do.
Oh, it's you. Tell those people in Michigan to be quiet. Got to be careful when you stand up and your webcam is on. Make sure that it's not your tidy whities that we're seeing. Okay.
Well,
all right. Well, Mike, I know I'm I'm very grateful. Barbara, do you want to officially end the meeting, and then we can open it up for crowdsourcing problems?
Thanks everybody for coming today. I know I learned a lot. Sometimes when you use a program or a database for a while, you know better what you don't know than you do at the beginning. So this was a great review for me that filled in some gaps in my knowledge of how to use JewishGen. I want to thank Mike so much. And I also want to thank him for being one of those people who does all this stuff so that we have these databases to search. At this time, if you want to stay on the call and ask some questions, please feel free to.